Hey everyone, and so before I get into the review itself, apparently it's been revealed on social media that apparently from 10 episodes from now we're going to finally get the big penultimate moment with Luffy. And all I will say on that is we'll have to see then, won't we? Like, I'm sure it might happen, but I don't know. But anyway, moving on aside from that, talking about the review itself, right out of the gate, I want to talk about the fact that there were more than a couple extended bits added to the King vs. Zoro fight in this episode. And I know I've said this a lot already, but the stuff Toei added in this episode, in my mind, definitely made the fight more dynamic than the manga. And don't get me wrong, the fight in the manga was already great, but one thing that I feel the fight from the manga did lack is that special touch Oda normally puts into a lot of his fight scenes, where he takes full advantage of everyone's of the combatant's strengths, and of every ounce of the combatant's strengths of both Zoro's opponent and Zoro himself has. And for the initial parts of and don't get me wrong, for the initial parts of the fight, I do understand why Oda chose to hold back on doing this, to reinforce that the idea that King is Kaido's top officer. But even when the fight stepped up and got more serious, even then it still felt like Oda was holding back on showing us what King was capable of, or it's one of those things more so where Oda had a vision of it in his head but couldn't completely translate it from pen to paper. But the little bits this episode adds to that fight in this episode is the most I felt like this is added content Oda wanted to show in the manga, but for one reason or another you just couldn't. Because it feels like, a lot of these little moments in the fight do feel like it takes full advantage of King and Zoro's strengths and abilities. But even more so than that, I also liked how the anime used Zoro's heart as a bit of a visual for how he took control of Enma, showing like everything else in swordsmanship, it's about maintaining the flow of his breathing and the flow, and with Enma specifically though, it's also about maintaining the flow of his haki. And yeah, seeing the moment of Zoro like finally making Enma his own, finally taking control of Enma, like with his own haki, his own power, and then outright saying to King's face, I'm going to be the greatest swordsman in the world. Like, it's really a very nice. And on top of that, also seeing Zoro call Luffy his captain and his best friend. It's all an amazing callback and encapsulation of who Zoro is. Like, yes, he has his ambition, but from the moment they met to now, Zoro still maintains so much respect and admiration for Luffy, and it's like he's doing everything he is in order to be strong for Luffy. I love it. With that said, though, the episode also offers up another go around into Zoro's past, but this time adding a new character to the mix, Kuina's grandfather, who's Kuina's grandfather, Shimotsuki Kozaburo, the one who crafted Enma and Waruichi Manji, which is also revealing to us the real name of the village she stumbled upon all those years ago when he first saw Zoro's backstory, which is of course Shimotsuki village, which of course is once again the series just pushing even further on the idea that Zoro is of that bloodline, of the Shimotsuki bloodline. Although apparently, as of recent SBS revelation of Zoro's family tree, I guess it's more so fair to say that Zoro is a distant relative of the Shimotsuki, as his grandmother was of the clan, while his father and grandfather carried the name of Roronoa. So that's actually one of those things where I wonder if Oda wanted to explore this aspect more in the Wano arc and in the manga, but he couldn't find the narrative room to do so, because with the knowledge, and it's like one of those things where with the knowledge of this SBS relation, that's kind of the vibe I get now with revisiting this flashback, or at least this part of the flashback, of Zoro's flashback, where we get introduced to the old man Kozaburo. That there was so much with Zoro's family that Oda wanted to explore, but with Wano behind us in the manga, I don't know if there will be a point where we visit it, where we possibly revisit again or something, or if we revisit it at all. Putting that aside, though, one interesting thing I did find about revisiting this flashback is through a few extended moments, it feels like the anime did slightly better at tying Kozaburo's lesson about swords back into Zoro's attempt to control Enma. And it's not that the manga was bad or anything, but there were aspects to a lot of Kozaburo stuff in the manga where it felt like it kind of got cut short or something like that. So it's not even like a big thing, it's just slight little details that were added, slight little moments that really kind of just made it feel like it connected more. Now, one curious little addition made in this episode is we actually get to see Momonosuke take control of Kaido's flame clouds, which again, probably a small insignificant detail, really just a gap filler when you get down to it. But in the manga, I do remember it just kind of cut. A lot of what happens with Momonosuke just kind of cuts to him suddenly doing something and gaining control over his powers as a dragon, rather than almost kind of meaning he learned a lot of this stuff off panel. So I'm not going to say that there is not an argument that focusing so much on Momonosuke struggling to grasp his powers does slow the pacing down. I do like how we are still getting slightly smoother transition in terms of Momonosuke actually learning to control flame clouds. I do like that aspect. Also, I guess Toei really shut down my prediction about the CP0 fight this week, as they decided to straight up add even a little bit more to the fight, and even though it was just for a couple minutes, even just for a minute or something, a couple seconds even, it's one of those things where, and while the way they do play out, it does make me question CP0's strength a bit. I think the important thing with the fight with CP0 is that it does go a long way towards explaining what's going to happen when the top hat guy shows up later in a moment. In a later moment where he's already pretty banged up. It is shown that it is because of this fight with Drake and with Apu that's the reason why he got all banged up. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from my Twitter handle is Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Runway signing off. Later, everyone.